well, let's go ahead and get started. And as people arrive, we'll welcome them in. Thanks so much for joining us on this panel on social and environmental impact from the Center for Social Innovation. Today, what we're going to do is have just a brief overview of the center and some of our programming, as well as some of the other opportunities for impact with the GSB. And then we've got a great panel of some of our MBA2s that can offer you some more insights into some of those programs. So my name's Hallie. I have been with the center for about 4 years, and I'm so pleased to welcome you and look forward to sharing with you about this center. So I'm going to share some slides, which I'm going to go through pretty quickly. So we'll have more time for questions during our panel. All right. So as I mentioned, we'll go through some of our programs and then hear from our MBA2 panel. So in general, what we do is educate insightful leaders for social and environmental change. And we do that through understanding problems, designing and measuring impact, learning how to manage impact organizations and scale ecosystems. And we work with you to get started on your network connections. We offer financial support and other programming to really help you get your career in impact. One of the academic offerings that we offer is the Certificate in Public Management and Social Innovation. This is the only additional academic credential you can get from the GSB. And there are over 50 courses that count toward the certificate while you're there. This slide goes into a lot of detail and offers you some examples of the courses that you can take to qualify for the certificate. But essentially, it's designed to help you understand problems, design and assess impact, and then learn how to build, manage and scale organizations. So the details of it aren't really too relevant for you right now, but know that it's a great offering that can really help you get a full picture of how you want to make impact in the world from an academic perspective. Just a course that I want to highlight is Design for Extreme Affordability. It's an experiential learning course that you can gain real world practice where you partner with a local social impact organization and you use design thinking and you apply it to actually solve a real world problem. It's one example of many experiential courses offered at the GSB that can really help you learn how to be an entrepreneur or explore impact in an organizational way. Another program I'm going to highlight is our Leadership for Society Scholars. So this program allows you to deep dive into a societal issue of importance that you care about. And then also it's two-pronged in that you can also learn how to foster really contentious conversations, which you'll confront if you're working in impact anywhere in the world. People will all have a lot of things to say, and there'll be a lot of debate, and learning how to facilitate those and create productive dialogue is important. So as you can see here, these are some of the examples of some of the projects that students have taken on through the Leadership for Society Scholars. Elise, who's featured on this slide, is here with us today, so she can share a little bit more about her project and her experience with that. But they range everywhere from mental health to future of work, corporate governance. I don't think anyone that did something environmental is on this slide, but there were others. So it's really an opportunity to deep dive into an issue area of your interest. Okay, fellowships and financial support. Here I'm going to throw a lot of acronyms at you. SIF, IDIF, EcoSIF, and then we'll get to Smith. Lots of ifs, but these are designed to allow you to either intern for an organization that might not be able to pay you what another GSB organization would be able to pay you, allows you to, IDIF allows you to really deep dive into an entrepreneurial area of your choice, or an entrepreneurial problem that you're looking to solve through entrepreneurship. Sorry. Nate is here. He's going to talk to us a little bit more about his experience with IDIF in that summer immersion. And then when you graduate, we also have funding and support both for folks that are looking to join organizations as leaders, that's our SIL prize, and then folks that are looking to be founders, and that's our SIF fellowships and prizes. So that's a little further down the road, but know that we've got these financial support offerings for you at the GSB. And the last thing I'll highlight in this category is loan forgiveness. This is both for for-profit impact organizations and for nonprofit impact organizations. So as you are thinking about an impact career, we are well aware that there might be some trade-offs between impact and finance. And so we have these programs to help you really resolve that. I'm going to just really quickly talk about the GSB Impact Fund. It's one of our experiential learning opportunities. Anisha is here. She's one of our co-CIOs, and she can speak more about it during the panel. But the Impact Fund is designed to really primarily educate students on the process of impact investing while creating significant impact from both a social and environmental perspective, as well as generate financial returns. And when you're a member of the Impact Fund, you source investment opportunities, you do diligence on them, you manage the portfolio. It's really the entire experience. So we can ask Anisha more about that when we get to that section. Okay, social entrepreneurship. For those of you aspiring entrepreneurs in the room, there's a lot of opportunity to explore the problem that you're trying to solve through coaching, through building your network, through the financial support that I recommended earlier. And this next slide just sort of goes through a lot of the offerings. I'm not going to go through every bullet on this page, but we offer workshops, there are courses, there's expert advising that you can tap into, and then of course there are fellowships. Like I said, I am running through this because we have actual students here that can bring more life to a lot of these programming than I can just while talking. Okay, so another important aspect of the GSB is community. So I want to spend a minute just talking about ways that you can grow your impact community while you're at the GSB. One offering that we have is prior to entering the GSB, you can participate in our impact peer groups. These are designed to give you early exposure to what impact can be like at the GSB by connecting with your peers, by meeting some of the faculty that are doing research on relevant impact topics, and then also learn some frameworks that can help you channel your values into your career. We also offer a lot of coaching and advising, and these are just a range of the options that you can talk to us about. We're here, I think the message here is that we're here to support you on your impact journey, whether you want to talk about academics, whether you want to build your venture, whether you want to find other ways to incorporate impact into your life beyond your career. Another program that's actually not the CSI program, but that I want to spend just a second talking about is the Corporations and Society Initiative. This is an organization that fosters conversations between business, government, and society to promote more accountable capitalism and governance. So here's some of the examples of the programming that they're putting on this year. Just a really great example of some of the great conversations that are happening at the GSB all the time that you'll be able to participate in. And lastly, I just want to talk about the clubs and activities. This is just a sample of some of the impact related clubs that are at the GSB. And Nate, I know I'm missing the entrepreneurship club, so I'll give you a chance to talk about that. but the clubs and activities are another way to really engage with the student community around career areas of interest or other areas of interest. And now the part we've all been waiting for, our MBA 2 panel. So I'm going to stop sharing and just take a moment and pause if there's any questions before I keep going. You can always add your questions in the chat or just raise your hand. Okay, so our great panel. A second, I'm just juggling some computer screens here. All right, I'm going to start at the beginning of the alphabet with Anisha. Anisha is a second-year MBA student at the GSB. She's co-chief investment officer of the GSB Impact Fund, co-president of the Social Impact Club, and course assistant for an impact class called Investing for Good. Anisha is passionate about linking promising social enterprises with the capital they need to drive impact at scale. This past summer, she served as a strategies and operations intern at Isuzu, a mission-driven fintech company that helps renters boost their credit scores. Prior to the GSB, she worked at Endeavor, a global nonprofit supporting high-impact entrepreneurs in emerging and underserved markets, as well as at BCG, where she focused on clients in the public sector. Next, I'm going to introduce Elise. Prior to the GSB, she was a founding member at Merit America, an economic opportunity nonprofit. She led strategies and partnerships there, forming partnerships with major employers like JP Morgan and Amazon, and developing and iterating the program model that has served thousands of people. Prior to that, she was a management consultant at Bain. Since coming to the GSB, she has been developing a startup in the neurodiversity space with a summer fellowship from CSI, and interned at an early stage women's health startup, also with a fellowship from CSI. And last but not least, Nate is an MBA 2 and an IDIF summer fellow. He is pursuing a career in social entrepreneurship with a focus on helping U.S. small business owners get accessible and affordable business guidance via technology. Before Stanford, Nate worked in strategy, go-to-market, and technical roles at Box, Inc., an enterprise software company. He also co-founded Start Small, a pro bono staffing marketplace that connected small business owners who needed support digitizing their businesses to career transitioners looking to validate their digital skill sets. Nate is from Boston and graduated with a BA in political science and communication from DC at the GSB. He's co-president of the Entrepreneurship Club and an admissions ambassador. So thank you for your listening to all of my talking. And now I'm going to actually hear from some of the students who are participating. So the first question I have for all of you is, how have you engaged with social and environmental impact during your time at the GSB? And whoever wants to start can go ahead.
Sure, I'm happy to kick it off. Yeah, it's great to see everyone. So I've had the chance to engage with social impact at GSB in a few different arenas, which Hallie had outlined earlier in her presentation. So one has been through the classes, another has been through sort of like structured activity outside the classroom, and then just like largely through the community and connecting with other people who are passionate about social impact. So in the classes, as Hallie showed on her slides, there's so many different classes that you can take around social innovation, social and environmental impact at GSB. And every quarter have had a chance to take classes related to that across like impact investing and affordable housing in California, systems thinking and social change. So a whole range of different topics, and also just like different frameworks and skills that I feel like I can apply, post GSB in my career. So that's one aspect. The other is through a structured sort of activity, extracurricular outside of the classroom, which for me has been the GSB Impact Fund, which is a student-led impact investing fund. And each year we invest in early stage companies that are creating positive social and environmental impact. And so we have a team that is focused on supporting our existing companies that we've invested in and helping them grow. And then a team that's focused on sourcing new companies. And so going out to meet founders, diligencing their companies, and then bringing those forward to our investment committee, which is comprised of faculty and senior impact investing practitioners. So that's been a really incredible experience, getting to learn the nuts and bolts of impact investing through trainings, and then actually getting to apply them in the real world, sort of through hands-on experience and working with founders and getting to see that impact really come to life. And then finally, in the community, this just happens all the time at GSB, meeting people through classes, through clubs, through activities, CSI staff who just provide a lot of advice, mentorship around social impact. And that's been really enriching for me as well.
Nice. I'm glad Anisha went first because she had a great 3-part framework there. A good former consultant. I guess if I touch on the same buckets, starting with academics, I have definitely enjoyed some of my courses. And I think some that stand out are Freedom, Democracy, and Capitalism with Keith Hennessy, just really interesting discussions. And now just in a kind of broad survey class of impact called Impact Idea to Enterprise. So that's really interesting. And then in terms of the outside of the classroom stuff, I think anything at CSI that has some acronym, I'm doing it, or I've done it. So I did IDIF over the summer with Nate, which was, I loved, cannot recommend that enough. Just the time to really explore an idea I had, but hadn't had the chance to really dig into. And so continuing on with that now. Also for part of my summer, I did Smith, which is a program that Hallie mentioned around, it's just extra stipend for your summer for organizations that can't pay you market rates. So interned at a women's health startup. And then L4S, Leadership for Society, where the two components are last year did just research around a topic I care about. And then now I'm doing the dialogue facilitation, which to be honest, I didn't think I was excited about, but I actually think I'm more excited about it now than the first part. We just had our first dialogue this week, but I think that's going to be a really cool experience. And then on the community aspect, I think like Anisha said, I think it's just a really nice community. One, I love both Anisha and Nate, but I also think I remember near the start of MBA one year, I went to a session about this certificate that Hallie mentioned, and there was an hour blocked for it, but it only took 15-20 minutes, to be honest. And then so it was over, but then everyone just stayed for the rest of the hour and was hanging out and talking. And so I don't know, I just thought that was very indicative of the community.
You all hit on most of the things I would point out, but maybe just a few other different areas to focus on from an entrepreneurial lens. I would say, when I first got to campus, I was overwhelmed with how to spend my time with all that there is to do. And I met with an advisor from the CSI focused on entrepreneurship. And that helped me sort of put my ducks in a row and really get started with my journey. So I couldn't recommend the advisors enough for that. And once I started going down that path, I did a lot of different things on the academic front. In addition to classes, I did what's called a 390, which is an independent study, not particularly run through the CSI, but that independent study allowed me to sort of start on that social entrepreneurship journey by doing some significant research. And I pulled on the people that I'd met at the CSI to help make connections to make that process easier. I also did IDIF this summer. What's cooler than getting paid to be an entrepreneur? And then I also continued with the same idea through Startup Garage. Once again, not a CSI program, but Startup Garage is an experiential entrepreneurship class where you go and build a team and a business. And there is a social impact lens that you can take and framework that you go through if you do consider your business social impact. So I've done that with the hopes of, getting the credit necessary for that certificate that Hallie had mentioned. Yeah, I think those would be sort of just a few other areas that hadn't yet been covered.
Super. Thank you all so much. So next question is a little more reflective. How has your thinking changed about your engagement with impact during your time at the GSB?
I can start because as one of the co-presidents of the Entrepreneurship Club, and for what it's worth, when we say we're like co-presidents of something, it's not that cool. There's 9 of me. There's 9 co-presidents. It's what we do in business school to inflate everyone's title. But what I've found to be really interesting is that impact just means something different to everybody. And there's no right or wrong definition. I myself am interested in building a for-profit organization that has a really important mission that helps an underserved population. But I do want to make money. And I think that, it's been interesting sort of sitting on the Entrepreneurship Club team where everybody's talking crypto and I don't know, what have you, and hearing their perspective of what impact must mean, right? Like, oh, Nate, you must want to go and start, some really, really awesome, but, some awesome nonprofit somewhere, but that's just not for me. So it's been really interesting having that dialogue with folks and getting it, like trying to bridge that gap. Since we're all in it, we're all really interested in solving really cool problems, just from different angles. So that's been something that stuck out to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, maybe not quite as big a transformation as Nate there. I think my thinking has evolved more around just the specific topic and content. I think in my application essay, I wrote about things around like diversity and equity. And I mean, I still think that's important by all means, but have just kind of honed in on like a more specific area in the neurodiversity space. And like my Leadership for Society project last year was different than my IDIF project. And then, found that like I really want to keep pursuing my IDIF topic. And the Leadership for Society staff was also really helpful with that, in kind of being able to put the resources from Leadership for Society around this new topic, even though it wasn't what I had been doing last year. So yeah, just more evolution around specific topic.
And then for me, I think my sort of engagement with social innovation, how my thinking evolved over my time at GSB was related more to my career path. So at GSB, a lot of people talk about, coming into GSB wanting to like test a career hypothesis. And for me, I knew I wanted to work in social impact, but I needed to figure out like where. And so that boiled down to me for either working on the funding side or the operating side. So either like investing funding in amazing entrepreneurs like Elise and Nate, or actually like working at companies that entrepreneurs are starting. And so that's what I used as my framework to like figure out what types of things I wanted to do at GSB, which meant like during the year I did Impact Fund, and then over the summer worked at a startup that is a mission-driven startup. And that helped me figure out, like having those different experiences helped me figure out that I want to be on the funding side, financing side of social impact. So it helped me like narrow down where I want to be. And I've realized I want to be at like the earlier stages of funding. And so, yeah, that's how my journey with social impact has evolved.
Super, thanks. All right. Next question, more about coursework. And you've touched, you know what? I'm gonna let our admit with her hand raised, whose name I am not gonna pronounce.
Salome.
Salome. Welcome, Salome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Please ask away.
So sorry, I didn't see there was anything in chat, but I'm really excited to be here and sorry for joining late. I'm Salome, I'm from Ukraine, and the question I have is, I currently have a social impact platform that I have done for Ukraine, and with Center for Social Innovation, but also with my MBA journey in particular, I really hope to scale all the processes that I have there and really continue to build this platform beyond Ukraine as well, but also create something meaningful on a kind of that will impact more people than it impacts right now. The question I have, what are the resources that are helping social innovators to scale and to prepare for a larger landscape? And if there are any, could you speak on your experience with them or recommendations that I should follow?
I can start, and then I'm sure maybe this might be an interesting question for Hallie or Matt to also speak on. I guess I'll take it from just a general Stanford lens, because to be honest with you, the way I think of the CSI, what makes it so special is it like connects so beautifully to the, probably better than most organizations at Stanford, to everything else that's available to you. So there's a program within Stanford called the Venture Studio Community, and that is where you get access to resources that like are like discounted software for like Amazon Web Service credits, or whatever you might need. That community also has it's not only current students but also alumni that are having conversations about, hey, like what lawyer would you recommend for this or something like that. While at Stanford, though, you do get access to free legal services, so that's another thing that you can use to keep up with it. So I'd say the Venture Studio community is huge. One thing I've really loved is that the CSI also has gosh, I'm gonna get the name wrong, but like rotating fellows or advisors who come in with industry experience. They're like currently running some really cool social impact organization, and you can speak with them about some of the specific areas of your challenges, interests, what have you, and get some great advice on a recurring basis. So just a few things that are top of mind for me. Please, Nisha, I don't know, does anything else stick out to you before? I don't know if Hallie or Matt has something either. But.
Yeah, I mean, scaling your enterprise. That's actually Matt. I'll let you take this one. And I should have introduced. This is Matt Nash. He is the director of the Center for Social Innovation. So welcome, Matt.
Yeah, and scaling is an obsession of mine. I was at Duke University for 18 years before I came here, and a lot of our research was on scale, and we created several accelerators and so forth. So you got me going. But what I would say is, in the case such as yourself, I would highly recommend you engage in our social entrepreneurship program. As Nate was just saying, we have both a group of visiting social entrepreneurs who are experienced, including some alumni who have launched and scaled ventures of their own, and also an amazing group of what we call our social entrepreneurship expert advisors, who are a variety of practitioners. And these folks come from a wide variety of fields and areas that could advise you. And then there are ways to take advantage of our programming, like a IDIF could be some summer money to kind of explore maybe a scaling hypothesis that you have, or some of our courses might help. Steve Davis's class on scaling might help you think of new pathways that you might want to consider, or other programs like that. So absolutely. So it'd be a mix of kind of customized. And I think Nate also makes a really good point that there are lots of other resources at the school and at the university level as well that you might want to tap into. So I guess my bottom line recommendation is sign up for one of the CSI team advising appointments early on, and we can help orient you for that path.
Thank you so much. And kind of going off of that, do you know if we are allowed to reach out like during summer or before we matriculate, essentially, like before September? Would that be okay, or should we wait until September?
Hallie, you want to mention peer groups?
So the peer groups is really sort of our first point of engagement with the admits, and that's an opportunity to both sort of get a sense of your peers as well as CSI and start to build that relationship. And we're still sort of sorting out the timeline for our summer programming, so more to come on that. All right. Do we have other questions from the folks in the room? All right, I'll let you think on your questions for another minute and ask one in the interim. This one's about electives and what you found most helpful in and you've mentioned some of your coursework in your intros, but is there a course that you found really supportive in helping you explore your interest or otherwise? And it might not be an impact course. I think this is sometimes something that's surprising to students that are interested in impact. They find some of the more traditional coursework and just as interesting as some of the impact coursework. And that's to say that there's an opportunity to really get a whole experience while you're at the GSB. So any electives you guys want to highlight?
Yeah, I think honestly, most of my electives last quarter were great. They were all very soft skill focused, very like I was in what we call touchy feely, but interpersonal dynamics, and was in a course called Managing Growing I technically TA'd it, but TAing isn't that hard. I TA'd a course called Managing Growing Enterprises, which is just kind of about like all of the difficult conversations you have in a growing org. Was in like a strategic comms class. So I really loved all of those because, well, one, like I did study business in undergrad, but I think at that point in time, like it's just much more like tactical, like core concepts, and you're not like, you haven't experienced some of these like difficult conversations. So one, I just like felt in a good place now, compared to undergrad to really be thinking about these things. And two, it just feels really relevant. Like, even though it's not like every case in managing growing enterprises is like in an industry I'm passionate about, but the issues that came up, like I still think will come up in the topic spaces I care about. And so it just felt like, I don't know, just like a really thought-provoking situations that will certainly be challenging, and maybe I'm a little bit better prepared to face them now.
Elise, on that, I was just I guess maybe a fun anecdote that I'm currently in Startup Garage with doing experiential entrepreneurship. And I swear I am now like thinking of myself as being inside a case for managing growing enterprises. Yesterday, I had to have a tough conversation with a teammate. I had to tell an engineer that he didn't get the role on our team. I had to tell a customer that we weren't moving forward with her on a pilot. So I'm having all these really tough conversations. And so that stuff has been so helpful. One other class I'll just point out that falls under the social impact like certificate, it counts for that certificate, is a class called Fiscal Policy with Keith Hennessy. And I'm not like thinking that my area of impact and focus will be in the fiscal policy space. But Keith was a former economic advisor to President George Bush, and he made me just understand the gravity of decision making in public service in such a way that, like, I don't know, I just read the news differently, and I think about what it means to be in a high level government role differently, and maybe even like got a little more interested in doing something in government at some point. So really make sure you take a class with Keith Hennessy before 2025.
One class in particular that I really loved was Investing for Good, very related to my career interests in impact investing. And it's taught by two real world impact investors who come in and are able to kind of share their experiences. But yeah, the class is really interesting because it covers impact investing across asset classes. So a lot of people, when they think impact investing, think like VC, like impact VC. But in this class, you're exposed to what does impact look like in public markets? What does it look like in like sort of debt? What does it look like in like real assets, like real estate? And so that was really cool to think about impact financing across all of these different asset classes. And yeah, you learn these very practical frameworks in this class, and then you have the chance to apply them because we do these like simulations where we evaluate deals and pitch them and bring them forward to an investment committee that's comprised of us, the students in the class. And so yeah, it was very like practical, hands-on learning. It didn't feel like I was learning this like sort of like theory that I wouldn't know how to actually apply in real life. So that was a really great class.
All right, thanks. again, I'll just pause for questions from the folks in the room. Shy group. Okay. Here's one that might be on the minds of our admins in the room. How did you choose to spend to focus your time in the first year? There's so many things that you can do at the GSB. So how did you choose to focus your time, and what might you have done differently in hindsight?
I don't know. I'm just laughing because like it's so hard to like I don't know. I think this is true like at any MBA program. There's just so many things happening all the time, and so it's some right. You make some decisions, and sometimes it's hard to know like were they the right ones. So I think honestly, like I'm just kind of ever evolving in how I try to think about this. I think, as I think about first year to now, and this isn't related to social impact per se, but I think like, my first year, I spent more time than I am now at like bigger, just social things. And now, trying to prioritize my time a little bit better and actually work on my venture and those types of things. So it's just one of those things that's like always in progress, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, definitely no like magic formula for how to do that. I think for me, what really helped in my first year was to go deep on one thing, because like in your first year, you can feel like you're just getting pulled in so many different directions, and there's so many different things you can try, and it's like all of this like wide breadth of activities. And for me, it helped to have like a grounding to like really go deep in one area, which for me was the impact fund. And that was a pretty significant commitment as well. And I felt, being able to really commit a lot of time to that, I was able to get a lot out of it in terms of spending a lot of time with other people who are interested in impact, and getting to that every week, like through our team meetings. And, outside of that, like I'm actually getting to talk to entrepreneurs who are innovating in the space, and like dedicating time for those calls and those sessions. And so yeah, I loved being able to like really focus on that amidst like the flurry of all the other activities and things that are available. One thing I wish I did more in my first year was connecting with alumni. I didn't prioritize that as much in the first year, because I was so excited to like connect with other students and with everything happening on campus. But alumni are like such a treasure trove of like wisdom and experience and insights as well. And so if I could go back in time to my first year, that's something I would probably do differently.
Anisha, I think you hit on something that's super important, which is, and like I say this to a lot of people as an admissions ambassador as well, is like, you really need to come in with a thesis, a hypothesis that you want to either prove or disprove, because of the fact that there's just so much going on once you arrive on campus. The classic example I'll give is at noon, a lot of the programming happens because it's during lunch, there are no classes. And you'll have to choose between going and seeing a really impressive speaker who's done X and another impressive speaker that's 2 doors down that's done Y. And so focus is important. And so I came in, with a hypothesis of an area I wanted to focus on, and I'd written my essay on it. And so I kind of just said, okay, like, it was good enough to get me in here. I might as well just like go down that path. And it's been a fun journey to explore it. So I would just really recommend heavily to just find something that you want to test out. And I think that there are a lot of folks at CSI who can help you refine that statement along the way. So then what would I do differently? Gosh, one thing that sticks out to me is I didn't take across the street classes. Across the street classes are just the term we use for any school other than the GSB. At Stanford, it's a huge plus that you can join those. But I think I just got too overwhelmed. I always wanted to take something in public policy at the law school, but there's so much going on in our own course load. And then I kind of think if I'm not taking a class, I should be working on my venture. And so it's just hard to, it's hard to dedicate the time necessary to do that. But I would really recommend you try to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I just want to add like a +1 to that. That was something I would do differently. It's really incredible to be at Stanford, at GSB, because there's obviously so much that is within the GSB community, but like thinking about the broader Stanford community, we have all of these incredible schools across like engineering, law, policy, education, and Stanford is, I feel like, very like cross-disciplinary in its approach to like social innovation and social and environmental impact. And so getting access to all of those classes and students across all of these different schools is really, it's a really cool opportunity. Like I'm taking one this quarter that I absolutely love, an across the street class on affordable housing in California, and it's hosted by the Urban Studies Department. And I'm learning so much, and there's a whole host of different students in that class. So just want to like emphasize or add to what Nate shared about that.
Same. Definitely take across the street classes. I was in a great education class around behavior design last year, and now as I'm building my MVP for my venture, just thinking a lot back to those concepts of how do I create this like tech-enabled tool to help people manage their condition, but they have to engage with it and, you know, be excited to do that. So
super, thanks. Well, I'm curious for those of you in the room, if you could use the raise hand, how many of you are thinking of starting a venture? Is that something you're thinking about? Is that? Oh, I knew there were a few of you in the room. Okay, great. Let's take a minute and talk about that. So for Elise and me, you know, were you thinking of starting a venture when you came to the GSB? And you know, I know you both did IDIF, but what are some of the most useful resources you found in helping you develop your ventures?
I was thinking of starting something, but I was a little bit like, either I'll start something or I'll join something like really early stage. Like I just knew I liked entrepreneurship in that kind of scrappy environment. Because the org I was at previously, I joined when it was, I always say it was the founder in a 2-page Word doc of her idea. And so I just like knew I really liked that type of work, but wasn't sure like, should I do my own thing? And I guess like a couple things that helped clarify this for me. One is like, honestly, the IDIF application was a great forcing function for me. To be like, okay, you know, I kind of wrote about this idea in my application, and then I did my leadership for society on this topic, you know, and thinking that through, like, if I have like real dedicated time, like what would I be kicking myself for like not exploring? And Grace at CSI was also very helpful in thinking through that with me as I prepared for my IDIF application. So that was, I would say, pretty like important for me. And then the other thing that I think is important for me is just kind of the culture at the GSB in terms of recruiting, or maybe lack thereof. Like I came from an undergrad environment that was very recruiting, on campus recruiting heavy. If you didn't have your job by October senior year, people were like, what are you doing? And I think the GSB in some ways is an outlier among MBA programs, in that, I mean, certainly some people recruit for more traditional careers, but there really isn't that pressure to. And so I think it gives me a lot of freedom and flexibility to feel like I might as well try to do my own thing. If it doesn't work, then I'll get another job after. And, you know, even the people in the class above me, I remember seeing them post on LinkedIn after like starting a job in October, and they only started looking in September or August because they decided to, you know, they travel or they got married that summer or something. So just kind of that lack of pressure on traditional recruiting, I think just creates a lot of freedom in like how I feel around being able to pursue entrepreneurship.
On a more tactical note, one thing that I think everyone should know about, because I didn't know about it until like maybe later than I'd like, there is money. There's impact funding. It's like small grants. Sorry, it's called Impact Small Grant Funding. It's like $2,000 up to $2,000 a quarter that you can apply for. And that is the difference between, like, can you get your website up, or can you test out your MVP? So look out for the money when it comes your way. In addition to that, I think hearing from those who have done it successfully is what's best. And so some of the classes we've talked about, excuse me, another one I'll point out is formation of new ventures. I'm currently in that, and it just chronicles GSB grads who started their own company, and it even explains like, well, what was their process like while they were at the GSB. So that was really helpful as well. And then, experiential entrepreneurship. So being able to take a course where you have to apply and go through that process, and then like build a team around it. It's the best way to see, will it sink or swim?
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Just, want to pause again for some more questions from the folks in the room. Yeah, please go ahead. Is it Saman?
It's Saman. Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for the session. It's really, really helpful. So I just had a question. So I'm an international student, and I understand that you can't work in your first year, but you could volunteer with an international organization. So I had two questions around that. A, if you know somebody who's done it, or if you've done it, what have been your thoughts about it? And the second is, how would you recommend going about that process of, finding an organization to volunteer for, in your first year?
I can start by answering the second part of what I'd recommend. The summer before I came to the GSB, I decided to volunteer on COVID vaccine distribution. Oh, did I freeze? No, I'm good. On COVID vaccine distribution internationally. And I just used my Stanford email and sent out a bunch of cold emails, and it worked. So really leverage that Stanford email address. You'd be surprised with how many people want smart, free support. So I don't have an answer to your first question, but I'm almost certain that using that email address will help you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not international, but something that comes to mind is last year, I think during winter quarter, I did a part-time internship with Techstars, like the accelerator program, and I think there were maybe 5 of us in my class who did that internship, but 2 of them were international. And so unfortunately they couldn't get paid, which was obviously not as ideal as getting paid. But, for them, they were like, what, this is still like an interesting learning experience. And they probably did like a slightly fewer hours per week than those of us who were getting paid, because, and then one of them in her summer actually continued part-time. Like she had a main summer internship and then was still doing like 5 or 10 hours a week for Techstars, because at that point she could get paid. And so it was kind of like the school year part was an investment for her, and then to get paid later. But also like there's so many part-time internships that get sent around at the GSB on Slack, on like the listserv, all of that. And so they're not called volunteer opportunities, but they could be if you just unfortunately can't get paid.
Great, thank you so much.
Maybe I'll jump in too. I mean, there are a number of other kind of slightly more formalized programs. The Seed Accelerator at GSB works with small, medium enterprises all around the world. We have something called GMix that makes short, I think, minimum 4-week experiences available. But also, this would be a great opportunity to plug into CSI, because we have an incredible network of alumni, social entrepreneurs, and social ventures. There are also a few other networks out there. Project Redwood is GSB alumni who are identifying social entrepreneurs around the world and supporting them and so forth. So I would say plug in with us. And then I'm at the risk of looking dumb in front of everybody. Hallie, do you know, have we ever run into issues with international students participating in SMIF? I guess it would be news to me.
No, I believe international students are eligible for SMIF.
Are eligible, right?
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
So maybe don't take that statement with talk with us, because there may be other ways. I mean, my understanding is there are some opportunities for this. Sorry, the SMIF is the where you're interning with a impact-based organization. I'm getting sucked into the alphabet soup myself these days. There are opportunities to take that in a way that, and Hallie, again, correct me if I'm wrong here at the risk of it, but there are ways to maybe apply that toward tuition rather than taking it as direct income. I may be wrong about that. But anyways, I guess the bottom line is definitely talk with us and with financial aid and the CMC to figure out opportunities that would work for you.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, other questions? Quiet group. You might be joining us from odd times across the world. We recognize that. So I want to thank you all for joining us. If there are no other questions, Lisa, I think you have a quick poll for us. You could just take a second and fill it out. We'd love to hear from you. We want to make sure we're meeting your needs. And I just want to thank our panelists, Nate, Elise, and Anisha, sharing some great wisdom with our students. And we look forward to seeing you all on campus. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.